So the floor is yours, Roy. Take it away.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah, small correction there. At Flitsmeister, I did do backend stuff, but for some other projects, I worked with Flutter, so I did do some mobile development. So you were correct there. But yeah, so this is my talk. What I learned from spending a few weekends with Google Cloud Vision, working on one of my personal projects that I started 2 years ago, and I completed it, I think, in a few months. Didn't work on it every week. I'll be taking questions anytime, so if something pops up that you really like to know, I'll answer it, and maybe if I'll answer it later in the presentation, then I'll let you know. So first, something about me. Roy did a brief introduction, so mainly focused on front end and cloud in my data. I work at Luminis, but I'm here on my own behalf. I'm interested in entrepreneurship and investing, and I also like reading books and learning languages. So not only development languages, but also spoken languages. I also have my website and some social media, but all of those are on my website. So if you ever want to contact me, you can go there, find my WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever you want to contact me on. So first, a question to all of you guys. Who has experience using cloud technologies? All right, that's almost everyone except a few. And who has done anything with cloud vision or AI? Also a few. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit more introductory, but hopefully my project will be interesting to you. So let me talk a little bit about my project. So my motivation to do side projects, I've done multiple, but this was the only one I actually completely finished, is to learn some new technology, so I always stay up to date. It also makes for an interesting presentation, and this one I also use on a daily basis. Well, not literally daily, but I use it every time for the purpose that I built it for. And at the time I read a book called Ultra Learning, and I wanted to apply those principles, meaning I wanted to do something practical and learn as much as possible by just doing, and then afterwards like reading more about it and yeah, like fully grasping the new technology or whatever you're learning at the time. So that's why I had the idea of doing a side project. And then I came to the idea when I started working. Actually, I got a company lease car, and it wasn't fully, the tank wasn't completely full. So I had to go to the gas station quite quickly, and then the machine, after like using my card, asked like, "Do you want a receipt?" And I did get a company gas card as well, but I was curious because I never owned a car before. Would it be efficient to get a lease car or buy my own car and pay for the gas myself? So I thought, oh, it might be interesting to take the receipt, maybe put it in a spreadsheet, and then that way see how much I spent like a month or per year, how much I would have spent on gas. So this is an example of what that would look like. There's also a few other interesting things like price per liter that varies all the time. So that way I could also track that, and I'll go more into detail which ones were interesting for me. But then the day afterwards I went back to the office, and I was just kind of thinking out loud like, yeah, is there a way to read text from a receipt? And while I was saying that, someone said like, yeah, there is. There's optical character recognition. And I was like, oh, wow, cool. I've never heard about that. Let's look it up. So I ended up installing an app on my phone to try it out first. And then I took a picture of the receipt and checked out the results, and it was pretty accurate. And then I was already excited, like, hey, let me look into more technologies to yeah, to kind of see how I want to automate this process, because I was like typing all these values manually. But I thought, yeah, maybe technology can do this for me, but I don't know yet how I can do that. And back then, I never heard about OCR, and I think some other people might also not have known about it. But these days, it becomes way more popular to like use cameras to detect text. Like last week, I saw an update from iOS 15 for iPhone, where the new camera systems, they have a lot of features baked in, where you can like detect text while opening the camera app, or after you shot a photo, you can like select text in your gallery or in your device, and you can translate, copy the text. So yeah, that's really useful for like students who still use books and they have to make notes and stuff like that. But you see, it becomes more common. But back then, I was like very excited because I've never heard about like how well those technologies work already. So I did use kind of a project method, but I only learned in hindsight. There's a lot of project methodologies like Scrum. I'm sure you're all familiar with that one. But in hindsight, this was pretty close to throwaway prototyping, where I just iteratively build a prototype based on all the technologies I found online. But also, I ended up throwing away one prototype because I thought of something better in the end. So yeah, that's why it was more in hindsight that I apparently chose this one. And also because I fully developed this myself, I didn't need any backlog or all of the other things that come with other project methods. So then I'll go into the results. There's two solutions that I built. I'll show you first solution one. This is something I hand drew after the fact, so this is not like architectural design. This is just to kind of illustrate how the system works in a few steps. So basically, you start here as a person taking the picture from the receipt, and then you upload it into the browser application that I built, which is happens to be an Angular application, but that's not too relevant. It could have been Vanilla.js or whatever, as long as it can import TensorFlow, because I built a model using Google Cloud Vision, and after you train the model, you can download it and then import it using TensorFlow. And then I did have to do some coding to receive the right properties from the object that TensorFlow generates, but other than that, you don't really need to do too much in terms of coding there. Then I send it to a cloud function that will use the original image and like got all the boxes of the interesting text that the model found. Then it will do that 6 times because I was interested in 6 pieces of text that appeared in the receipt. That would be the date, the time, the current mileage of my car that you have to type into the machine as well. And it will also be reflected on the receipt. So that way I knew what mileage my car was on. The price per liter I mentioned, the volume, which is the amount of liters you got at the time, and also the total price, which could be derived, but it's also on the receipt. So in total you have 6 interesting data points on the receipt. And then for every box that was detected by the TensorFlow model, I would cut out a small image, which would, for example, have the value 26.34 for example, the volume. And then that would be sent to Google Cloud Vision OCR. Google Cloud Vision OCR is an existing service by Google that you don't have to configure or anything like that. You only have to say what type of image you're sending and what kind of result you want back. And then it will give back the text to you. So it just gets some raw text based on an image you sent. Then that text goes back into the cloud function, and it has the appropriate label still attached to it. So based on the detection in the model, you would still have your value connected to that. And then I would create some JSON object of 6 values, and I'll put all of those in Google Sheets in the right column. So every key in the object would have a key in the Google Sheet. So I'll just have like the top row of my Google Sheet. Yeah, those names couldn't be changed unless I changed my my code. So if a non-technical person was interested in this document and he was like, "Oh, this is an ugly name," and he would change the row, then it wouldn't work anymore. So I think now it's about time to show you a little bit of how this all worked. From the first solution, I don't really have a lot of documentation because I was really more into developing and not really like documenting my whole journey. But I did keep this this part. I recorded it because I was at the time super excited that I saw some results finally. But you see a terminal window here in the middle of the screen, where I just run the JavaScript using Node. But normally that would be the cloud function in the image I showed earlier. So here on the left you can also see the spreadsheet with all the columns in bold letters. And on the right you can see the receipt, where the image would already be scanned by the model, and it would draw all these boxes around the date, the time, the volume, and all the other things I mentioned previously. So I'm gonna hit play right now. Now you can see it will execute the command, and then after it's done on the left you should see that the spreadsheet will be updated. So now you can see all the values are added. So basically that was me testing the code that would run in the cloud function. And then I have some other stats that I will just extend. Those are derived from the raw data. So that was basically how the initial model works. And I can show it a little bit in Google Cloud as well. So in Google Cloud Vision, you see on the left you have a dashboard, some datasets and models. So if I look at datasets, the first time I went here, I pressed create a new dataset. I didn't know which one to pick, but I later learned that the first one, single label, is for classifying images. So for example, different types of clouds or different types of trees, if you want to work with that kind of stuff. You also have multi-label. Let's say you have a dog and a cat in one image. Then it could classify multiple labels, like there's a dog and there's a cat in one image. But I was more interested in object detection, where in my case the objects were pieces of text. So that's kind of how I approached that, by creating that kind of a data set. And then I can also show you what that looks like. So you upload a bunch of images. And then for every image, you can manually draw boxes using your mouse around, in this case, the time. It's all in Dutch, so I probably think it's too small for the people at home anyways. You have the dates, the volume, the price per liter, and the amount, and the mileage, the kilometer stand. And yeah, this way I trained my model. I did use my own credit card, fun fact, but I did get some credits as well by, after activating Cloud Vision. So that those got added to my account. And that way I could do it for free, but there was also a small risk that if my model was training for too long, yeah, that I could have spent like $16 per minute. So that's was kind of interesting to see like how long would it run. So I was keeping tabs on the time, seeing like calculating how much credits I had and how long it would run. I think in the end I spent like 200 euros of credits, and I had like 250, so I was within the limit. But then I also realized that it would be a limitation to do it this way, because I think usually these kinds of models will be used for maybe millions of images at a time, and then creating one model and not iterating over that. Whereas I was collecting the data like every week or every other week whenever I had to fill up my car, I got one more receipt. So it's a very small data set. And also I wanted to kind of use this iteratively. And that's not really a thing. Here you have to upload all your data at a time. So you literally have to create a kind of a new model to using all of the previous images as well. So that was kind of a limitation, but I wanted to point out here in the test and use section, after it's done creating, which happened a long time ago, like I said, you can choose a few types of deployments, so to speak. You have TensorFlow Lite that can be used on mobile devices. You have TensorFlow.js that can be used in websites. That's the one I used. And containers. I'm not sure how that would work. Maybe you can like deploy a container and then create an endpoint that way. But yeah, this is the one I picked and used. So it ended up working quite well. But not every image would be the same, because if I went to another station, they have slightly different receipts as well. So it did work for most of my receipts, but not every one of them. So that's kind of why I went ahead and did a second solution. So wait a second. And it looks quite similar. Still have the same Angular application, but I decided to ditch the whole self-created model. And I was thinking, what if I do OCR on the entire receipt, and then I get all the text. And then maybe I use something like natural language processing. I've heard about that when I was researching a little bit, and I thought, oh, maybe I can find some kind of platform that does a lot for me. I ended up finding MonkeyLearn for that, and MonkeyLearn, kind of the name implies it. It's kind of works like magic, where you just click the interesting words in the text, and then automatically the platform will recognize it as like a recurring pattern, and it will try to find the same words or similar values in the text again. I think, for example, with the mileage, it was like 5 numbers, so it was in the tens of thousands. But when I got into the hundreds of thousands, it wouldn't recognize it as good anymore. So I think it was looking for a 5-digit number and kind of guess, oh, that must be the one. And that's kind of how I thought about it to begin with. Like, oh, a computer should be able to do this, but how do I hand code this? Like, if the number is like 5 characters, then maybe it's the mileage. So I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it by hand. I'll find a third party who has researched this more. So it's kind of similar, but we do have an immediate upload to cloud storage right now. I only did that later on, where I wanted to keep all the receipts into to cloud storage, so that I could have a copy for debugging purposes or just to see all the images that I uploaded. And then the cloud storage will trigger a function whenever something gets uploaded. So that's how I trigger the whole process right now. And then I will do the OCR, the same one, only one time. So I did use the same code for that. Then it will get the raw text, and then it will just send it to MonkeyLearn. They will do their magic. It will come back to the cloud function. I get the same similar object that I had in my first iteration, and then I'll plop it into Google Sheets again, just like the last time. And this one I can actually demo, so I will do that right now. And what we see here is my beautiful zoomed in website, where there's only a file picker, so it's only an input field in HTML. So all the magic is behind the scenes. And I'll select an older image that is produced somewhere in 2020. Now if I go into the spreadsheet to 2020, you just saw it appear. So this one I tested just today as well. And now we have this row that I just did in this demo. I can also see here the image. So it seems like all the numbers are correct. And we also have the full text that I store, so I can later on use that for training purposes again. So that's kind of how this one works. So every time I get the receipt, I can immediately take a picture and throw it away again, and then upload it from my phone. And then I can at home at some point open the spreadsheet and like extend all these numbers over here to make the data complete, to use it for my purpose. And here you can see all the accumulatives, so I can see what the amount is for the whole year and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I use it for. And then I can also show you what what the MonkeyLearn part looks like. So here there's a build and a run part. The most interesting is, of course, the run part, where you can see the text on the left that is outputted from the receipt. And you can see here on the right the actions it's already doing. This is one that's already in the system, so it already knows super accurately how to parse this one. Then we can also see the entire JSON object that you get back. And also the lists, which was more useful to me because I only wanted key and value. Then I can also show you train it. Let me see. Upload some new data. I hope this works because I collected 4 new ones. This is the only way to show you because once it's in the system, it cannot detect them as new again. And I'll just upload those. Should take a second. And then there's 4 duplicate ones, so I think I did upload them just before this presentation. And now I can train everything. So now I am basically the monkey that is clicking all the right labels. So for the amount, I pick this one, and apparently it's 2 times on this one. The price per liter is this one, I think. Volume is this one. Dates, let's find the dates. It's a little bit apart, but you can click all these together. And the time, and that was it, I think. Oh yeah, you're correct, thanks. And then the kilometer stance, it's probably, let me see. Oh, it's over here, but the number is somewhere else. I think it's, no, that's too big. This one, 105,000. So now on the confirm tab, I can see I have 7 labels selected, so that's pretty useful for you to verify the number, because I have the total amount twice, and then I hit confirm, and then can go into the next. But you can see here on the top bar that it's currently learning just based on the input I gave it. And I think if they extend this whole system, you could kind of have something similar to what Facebook has with flagging offensive content. They have people manually like updating the model, and then as they go, it will probably get redeployed continuously, so it improves all the time. So yeah, that's like the most advanced part about my system. It's the third-party software that I use, and this works really well, except for the one I told you about earlier with the total mileage on the car, where the number changed and the amount of digits. Then it didn't work anymore. So that was the demo. So how many lines of code did you guys think I used for solution 2? I see 5. I see a 3.
You already had the content, right? So you just need to rewrite the...
Yeah, but that's still included, and also like the cloud function and everything else. 42. That's a bit optimistic. Yeah, I think for maybe a normal application like handwriting everything, it could be in the thousands, but for this one, I wrote it in about 200 lines. So still not a huge code base to maintain, especially if you have like a smaller project within a company that requires this. It's quite easy. How many clicks? With oh yeah, in the beginning I used I think 40 images. So yeah, times 6 or 7, sometimes 5 because not every piece of text was readable. So yeah, but that's also quite nice that it kind of created a nice model, even though you don't always have every label visible in the text. So yeah, my main learning experience was comparing the two solutions that I built, and yeah, I have a few thoughts on that. What made this approach a lot better? The pictures are already stored because you immediately upload them. And that was pretty huge for me to kind of keep a nice nice archive. The OCR is applied a lot less and less times, and that's a lot faster because it's only one call instead of 6 to the Google service. And as you can see, I can improve the model way more easily than the other solution, and the results are more accurate and they contain less errors, and that's mainly because of the way the receipts look, and not really because of the accuracy of the model. The model was performing quite nicely, but yeah, it had to be very stable. So maybe it's better for like a machine where you clamp something inside of it and have a stable image, and the layout is a lot more similar. And what made it a little bit worse, as you can see, my UI was kind of bland. And in the previous UI, you did see the image with all the boxes. So it was kind of nice to immediately see some results. And I also made the cloud function asynchronous. So I did get a JSON response back to the front end as well. So I could literally show the user if it was successful or not. So that's kind of what I'm missing right now, but at the same time, I usually just go into my spreadsheet and see if it worked. And I don't really keep staring at the UI anyways. It's more like fire and forget, just upload and then yeah, go ahead and do my my other things again. And also, yeah, I'm very reliant on the natural language processing. But at the same time, I could always swap that out for something else, like maybe also a Google Cloud service. But this was just an easy solution for me to work with. Then I have some reflections on this project. It's very nice to play with cloud technologies, even if you don't have much experience. At the time, I think I only created a few VMs and used some Docker containers, but I never used any AI-related technologies. And as you could see, 200 lines of code, in my opinion, is not a whole lot. So it allows you to create very nice and impactful software with minimal amounts of code. And I think that's also the future we're headed, like writing less and less code and the cloud's doing a lot more for you. And it's also nice to see that you can just throw away part of your project and completely start over with new technologies and create better results. And yeah, sometimes you are a little bit tied down to a certain solution, and you kind of have to put your ego to the side and be like, yeah, let's start over and create something better. So that's those are the key takeaways I got from the project and I wanted to give you. So that was it. Thank you.
So
Thank you, Roy. You really showed us how you can do amazing stuff with cloud technologies with just a few lines of code. Well, as a software engineer, you can do so much great stuff if you just look at what's available at Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. I don't know if anyone in the audience has any questions at the moment. Yes, please.
You also, I think, the model you create, it can be also used for different various other things also, for like groceries. Will you try that other things with the same model?
Should I repeat the question to the audience? So the question is, could you use this same model for other purposes?
Yes.
I think you could do it. It's probably better to detect kind of create multiple models and then see based on the situation which model to apply. But I think you can add a multitude of labels and then based on what the text looks like, you could probably maybe have 18 labels and then 6 of those 18 are for that project and 2 are for another type of text. But I think logically you would make multiple models and then maybe have some type of filter. Let's say you're scanning a lot of documents for insurance company. Maybe detect first, is this an application form? Is this a claims form? And then based on that detection, detect the contents of a document. That's kind of how I would start building that, like how I would design it.
How many images was required to create the model?
I do not remember exactly. I think it was 8 for the MonkeyLearn one. And for the Google one, I wouldn't be sure what the minimum was, but I think they say 10. I think I ended up also having like 8 or something and it accepted it because I duplicated the ones I already had and just uploaded them again under a different name because I didn't have enough data yet when I was starting out. But that also worked pretty good. You could see the confidence score was about 20% for every image then. So that's one of the values you get returned next to the boxes that have been detected. And I think anything under 20 was not usable, so I skipped those. I've just put in an if statement, like if the confidence score is lower than 20, don't use the value because the image had to be processed then. And everything above 20, it would be somewhere between 20 and 60. That was actually working quite well. Like the box would be fairly around the number for the new image that I had after that. So that was quite nice to see that it was only 8 images to really get something that you could use hands-on. So if you ever start a project, you only need a few images or a few pieces of text to build something cool, and then iterate over that.
Rosanna.
Yep.
Your receipts, like we read in Western population, we read from left to right and from top to bottom, and perhaps when your receipt is a bit or not great, perhaps you would read more diagonal. Is there a way to configure that?
Yeah. So to summarize your question for the audience, is there any other way to pass parameters for reading the images? I think there are options. I didn't need to use them because I think it was standard, like the normal alphabet, or I forgot the name, Latin alphabet, and So yeah, I'm not sure like what else I needed to do. I think only one parameter that it was a certain type of document, just a document containing text, and I think there's also a few other types of enum types of configuration parameters that you can pass to the call. But yeah, you'd have to look into the documentation to see the full list of things.
I can imagine that now the MonkeyLearn platform can recognize their values because of its values and not because of the information surrounding that value. I can imagine as a normal person reading a receipt, you look at your key to receipt or value.
I had the two columns on the receipt.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can imagine if you can configure the way you're reading your receipt that.
Oh yes. Yeah, I think I have looked at how Amazon did it, AWS. And over there they had a nice demo that you could use with like a proper document, so not really a receipt, but like an actual document with like straight lines for forms. And I think for forms they do have features like that where you could read also sort of key value pairs where the key is on the left and the value on the right. But when getting hands-on, AWS was not really my cup of tea at the time. I think they also had less languages at the time. So no option to select Dutch or any other language that you would need to use. So I hope that answered your question. That it's more for structured documents that they have a certain type to do that. All right. Any more questions?
I got an important question. So you wanted to find out how expensive it is to own a car.
Yes.
And did you find it out, or were you just going all in on the OCR stuff?
Yes, so they already told me this is the best deal you could probably get if you wanted to drive a more expensive car. I think the only other option I would have is drive the cheapest car, but then that would only be for the monthly fees, but not really maintenance included. So
you have a good deal now.
Yeah, there's almost no other option for me.
Okay, well that's
better. Yeah.
That's also a really nice finding.
Maybe public transportation, but then,
yeah, you can walk. It's a bit cheaper, I guess.
But I do use it personally as well, so then that's not really a good option either. So
sure,
I did make a right choice, and this disproved it. So that's nice.
All right, thank you very much, Roy.
Thank you.
Thank you, online audience. This is the end of the meetup.